Hi guys, Brant here, and welcome to another narrated match video. Today, Monty requested that we do Spirit. Wanted some tips on how to play Spirit and be more efficient at playing Spirit in the game of Dead by Daylight. Specifically, Monty asked for specific advice with the maps like Mother's Dwelling, Batum, all 5 versions of it, and Yamaoka maps. Now, we're going to be focusing on Yamaoka maps today as the main focus of like what can you do better here, because when we're talking about maps like Mother's Dwelling, like Batum, like, you know, Fractured Cowshed, Ear Crows, there's not really anything having to do with you involved in that sort of department. Those are, when we talk about those kinds of maps, those are the top 5 most survivor-sided maps in the game. And especially with Batum and Mother's Dwelling, they're in the top 3. So I would say like the game, Mother's Dwelling, and all the Batum maps combined are probably the top 3 hardest maps to play as Killer in Dead by Daylight. I don't think that's you. I don't think there's much. There's things you can do well and do better on those maps, but I would say 80-90% of the time, it's mostly the map working against you. Those maps are just incredibly stacked, so that's probably not you. In terms of a fun and cool build that I think is fun to learn Spirit is to throw Corrupt on. Obviously, Corrupt is good on every character, and then you can cool down the gens a little bit at the beginning of the match. Barbecue for the blood points, so you can keep perking her out. I like to use End Fury because I like to just be in and out of phase as much as possible and just kind of focus on chase. You don't want to be super tryhardy and try to be going for the 4K over and over and over again when you're trying to learn Spirit. What you want to do is invest in your future with Spirit and try to lock down phasing, in which I picked 2 add-ons that are very, very great, that I love a lot, that I think are great if you're trying to learn phasing, that being Rusty Flute and White Hair Ribbon. Rusty Flute gives you a recharge rate of 25%, so you're going to be able to go back into your power over and over more often. That way you're spending most of the match just using your power and staying in your power and learning how it works and how it feels. And White Hair Ribbon is good because that increases your charge speed. So you're going to be, once again, getting your power back quicker and quicker and having it more often and being able to stay in your power more often. So these 2 add-ons, including with some chase perks, will allow you to actually be able to practice phasing, because phasing is the main thing that makes her powerful. Other than that, you're just a 110 M1 killer, which is not very fantastic. So the core thing here is learning how to phase better. So like I said, I'm going to play a few matches here. Just like we did last time. I'm going to pick one of those matches that I feel like really exemplifies good Spirit gameplay and things you should be doing to improve as Spirit, and I will highlight that when we get to that match. So let's go ahead and roll that. Okay, so we start out, and somehow this glitch is still in this game. This glitch with her camera at the beginning of the match has been in the game for a really long time. I'm surprised they haven't fixed it at all. But anyways, so what I usually do if I'm starting a match with Spirit is I will phase directly to try and find a survivor. And this is something that a lot of people don't do, is a lot of people don't use Spirit's phase as an ability to actually, you know, gain distance on people. Some people only reserve it for chasing down people and anti-looping people, but it is also helpful as a tool to simply go find, like, traverse the map as well. And I feel like a lot of people underrepresent her ability to use it as a traversal tool, so definitely don't be afraid to use it as a traversal tool as well as an anti-loop. So I pick 3 survivors here, so I look for the one that's out of position the most first. I hit her, and this is something you're going to be doing as Spirit. This is something you're going to be doing as Spirit constantly. You kind of play them almost like twins in this regard. If you are able to get the hit on someone right away and then phase, that's perfect, because if that survivor does not have Iron Will, that means that survivor is groaning and whining and making a very large amount of whiny, very loud noises that are very easy for you to track. And tracking is really hard. It's really hard to phase and track somebody through sound, especially if your headphones aren't the greatest, if you can't hear them because they're not even injured. All you hear is they're gasping, they're breathing. But if they're injured, they're making a whole lot of noise. Granted, they don't have Iron Will, and that makes them a lot easier to track. So if you have a capability to hit someone before phasing, definitely do that, because that makes your subsequent phase easier because they are going to be louder. So what you want to do here is something that you're going to see me do a lot through the match. Is a lot of players will do one of two things when they see you phase. They will A, start walking to throw you off, or they will hold W. So this Michaela you will see throughout the match likes to hold W. So sometimes what I like to do is if she's holding W and I'm not quite sure where she's going, I'll actually exit phase a little early just to see where she's going, what she's up to, because she's unpredictable right now. We're at 5 gens, the match just started, so I don't know what she likes to do. I know she likes to hold W, but I don't know like her philosophy and what she's trying to get to exactly. So if you have a W gamer, don't be afraid to exit phase a little early and go, where are you headed? What's your game plan here? So she has Dead Hard, so I waited out, and that's whack her. I think like a lot of people get really attached to phasing and staying in phase right until you're literally right on top of the survivor. And there's a lot of reasons that's helpful, but there's also, that's not the only way to use phase. Yeah, it's not you don't have to stay in phase right until you're on top of the survivor. If you can do that, it's great, but it's not the only way to play the character. If anything, the sound in this game is a little awkward, so if you phase on someone until you're directly on top of them, the breathing and their walking may sound like they're farther away than they are, so it's often smart to come out of phase a little early so you can use your lunge to catch up to them. This is really, really important right here, and I end up getting the hit for it, and I'll replay this for you. This is funny. So if you don't know, what I'm doing right here is an old mind game that used to exist with Spirit. Spirit used to not have an audio cue for survivors when she was phasing. So basically, it was a 50-50 mind game for free because you didn't know if I was standing here and I had started phasing, or if I was just trying to mind game you and stand here and make you run into me. The problem is a lot of survivors still don't know this for some reason. Like they really, for some reason, don't get that, oh, there's an audio cue when she's phasing now. Even if they do understand that, what you can do is just start a phase and stand here in one place, give them the audio cue that you're phasing, and they will often move away from the safety of the pallet and right into your arms. Right here, I don't use the fake phase. I just stand here just to kind of check, see if she knows that, you know, there's an audio cue now. She doesn't and ends up running into me. But if you run into a survivor that knows that the standstill tech doesn't work anymore because there's an audio cue, just phase in place for a little bit and they might, you know, exit the pallet and come towards you anyways. This is kind of a your mileage may vary strategy, especially without actually phasing, because some survivors obviously, you know better. So kind of the mileage may vary. It depends on the kind of survivors you're facing. So you don't want to like concretely do this every match. It really depends on the skill level of the people that you are facing. Unfortunately, this Fang is not one of those people, so I just get to just stand here and get a free hit, which is really silly. Which is why this character got nerfed and had that prerequisite added to them, because being able to just stand still and get a free hit was kind of ridiculous. See how I come out of phase a little early there? So the problem with Spirit and the hard thing with learning Spirit is trying to listen to where the survivor is, especially if you don't have the best headphones. It's hard to hear where the survivor is. So right now, I hear her groaning, and she sounds like she's right here. She sounds like she's behind this rock. But we come out of phase and she's actually over on the left. She's actually made about a meter of distance more than where I heard that she was last. And this is something I've kind of consistently noticed about Spirit, is that you may be able to hear somebody directly on top of you, but in reality, there's kind of like a bubble around you within a meter of space that they may possibly be in. And don't worry, you know, DBD thought about that, behavior thought about that. That's why she has a lunge coming out of her phase. That way you can cover that meter of distance no matter which way they end up going. But if you're in that situation where you're like, oh, well, it sounds like they're directly under me, they may not necessarily be like under you like that. For some reason, when somebody's like right next to you like that, the audio gets really bizarre. So it's kind of hard to track them. But keep in mind, you do have a lunge. You are able to come out of your phase and be able to go after somebody after that. So don't feel too shy in kind of like breaking out of phase just because you hear it and then kind of trying to react to this instead of trying to get directly on top of the survivor, because often you won't end up where you would like to be. And I do get her here for that. I can't believe she got that. Like that little sliver. She actually didn't get, she got the blind but not the save. But that little sliver of space, she got that. That's crazy. Flashlight saviors are nutty. That was just funny. She just ended up running back into me. once again, I run into phase. So she sounds like she's to my left, but actually she's immediately to my right. And you see how it messes with me there? That's exactly what I'm talking about. It sounded like she was directly under me, but she wasn't. So she went from the left to the right and got a lot of distance because it sounded like she was directly under me, but she wasn't. She was actually like passing from left to right. So I should have exited a little bit earlier to be able to react to her. I still got her because there was kind of nothing there for her to work with, but that could have cost me an easy down there if she actually had resources. I know Michaela's here too, but Fang's injured and does not seem to be be able to loop too well. There's no shame in going for the weak link in a team, especially when survivors can suddenly become very, very efficient out of nowhere. So definitely don't feel bad going after the link weak in the team. Matter of fact, the hardest matches are the ones where there's like one link, weak link or none at all. I'm confused why this Michaela didn't commit to that gen, but yeah, because she could have definitely got that done. Okay, so this is an important thing. If you're looking for Yamaoka specific tech, and if anything, tech for just maps in general, this is where apply for like swamp and stuff. Look at how the bushes rustle. The bushes here rustle as she runs through them. This is probably your biggest tip for Yamaoka in particular, and other maps in general. Like Batum, for example, has a lot of grass and bushes. But any map with a lot of foliage, the characters do actually part the foliage that they walk through. Michaela actually physically parts the bushes as she goes through them here, the little ferns back there. And even if you're having a hard time tracking a survivor, they are still parting the grass below you. That's why when I get corn as spirit, I'm not actually too upset, because if they're running towards the corn, I'm watching the corn stalks bobble back and forth as they run through. So even if you're having that situation I was talking about earlier where the audio is being kind of weird and I can't exactly tell where they are, I can literally visually look down and just see the plants moving. So that's probably your biggest brain response and your biggest map thing, especially with like the Yamaoka maps, is that there's ferns, there's grass all over the ground here, there's bamboo, there's a lot of like foliage for them to bump into and to hit. So when they start doing that and you start seeing those move, that is a confirmation that survivor is quite literally right there. So there's nothing more to it. Just that is a confirmation that they are right there. So use that to your advantage. Okay, so she continues to hold W because that's what she's been doing the whole match. She's a W gamer. Kind of a terrible character to hold W against. That's one of the things that makes spirits really nice. So I try the standstill tech here. She doesn't fall for it. She knows. So what I do, like I said, is I do a little short phase to kind of trick her, and she leaves the tile because she thinks I'm phasing. So that little spurt, that little, she thinks I'm phasing, so she leaves. But I'm only phasing for half a second, so I'm encouraging her to leave the tile, and she does, and I catch her in her dead zone and hit her. So I follow her all the way, and I know she's... Okay, so this one's very, very important. This was a very, very... Okay, I'm not trying to toot my horn. This was a good play on my part. So I hit her, and I start phasing. I know she likes to hold W, so I get to about here. Hold on. So I get to about here, and I'm seeing her scratch marks go from right to left here. I'm trying... One of the biggest things to playing Spirit well and playing Spirit intelligently is not only tracking people with your audio, but also reading survivors and trying to preemptively act on the actions that they want to take. So, for this example, Michaela is a W gamer, and I know that for sure. But she is still a survivor that has some level of self-preservation, and I am in phase, and I am quickly approaching. So she has to make a decision right now, is I got to get to a resource as quick as possible. So I scan around, and I'm like, what is the best resource to stop me right now? Keep in mind, she has Dead Hard, so she has about an extra like meter or two of distance that she can just immediately have at the drop of a hat, literally in a single press of the button. The Z-Wall, not going to be helpful. I can just phase around, hit her, even she might Dead Hard, but that won't help her. So I know somewhere over here to the left is a path palette. There is a path palette back there, but I would catch up to her in time even with her Dead Hard. So she probably wants to go to the left to try and make the path palette using her dead hard, because that's the closest resource and that's the safest resource. So I stopped, even though I hear her and I see the scratch marks right here. I see them right here. I'm actually not going to follow her. Matter of fact, if I had followed her in this instance, I would have gotten slapped by the pallet because of pallet validation. I would have not have succeeded this hit. But instead, because I know she's going for this path pallet over here, I go around the rock and beat her to it. So you have to also think not just think about, oh, well, I'm going to track the survivor while in phase. You also got to think about, where does the survivor want to be? Where are they running to? And try to cut them off with your phase as well. And it's not always, oh, I'm just going to listen to the survivor and follow their scratch marks. Sometimes it's, where do they want to be? And I'm going to use the speed of my phase to beat them to that resource. This poor Fang, bless her heart. I'm pretty sure she DCs too. Like, she was having a rough game. She's just like, I use my life and I get away, and it just never really worked out for her, and it just makes me sad. Poor thing. For some reason, Steve comes here to like try and take like aggro, I guess, but I don't know. There's kind of no reason for me to take aggro there, so I just pick her up. Poor thing. We are at 3 gens, and depending on how much progress they have on another gen, you typically want somebody dead by 2 gens in any match of Dead by Daylight. So, you know, there was no reason to hold back there, because for all I know, they have another gen about to be done, and then we're going to be at 2 gens, and then the match is actually, you know, in peril, so I don't want to do that. Run into Michaela. Once again, I phase. I come out a little early, because she likes the W game. I wait out the dead hard. And there you go. See? If I had tried to follow her all the way up, she'd probably just like wait for me. There was Fang's DC. If I had followed her all the way up, she'd probably just wait for it, and the moment I come out, she would just dead hard. But the fact that I came out a little early gave me some time to be able to like wait it out. So, you know, I mean, that's a big problem with Spirit mains. I think that's my biggest takeaway, is that like learning Spirit, a lot of people are just like, they see a thousands of hour Spirit pinpointly like track a survivor in phase and hit them straight out of it, and they think that's the only way to play the character. But you can play with your phase, with the Spirit's phase, in so many different ways. The match kind of like falls apart at this point. We just start messing around. Like I down him. I'm gonna go get my final barbecue stack, and then she starts like bat signaling to the sky. It's just shenanigans from this point on. See, look. Wow, what's up there? But yeah, I feel like people watch these like Spirit players that, you know, are masters of the character and just do these pinpoint phases. They land right on top of the survivor, they insta down them, and yeah, that's still good, and eventually you do want to be at that point. But you have to understand that like the utility of Spirit's phase is a lot wider than just that pinpoint phase. You can use it for distance, you can use it to cut people off from resources. You can I can't believe she didn't get that. You could also come out of your phase early and use your lunge to kind of like mess with the survivor and to get that down more predictably. Like, there's a lot of ways that you can play with her phase. It isn't just that pinpoint phase directly on top of them and hit them like you see the Spirit pros do. I just wanted to get her flashlight back because she dropped it for me. Like, thanks for memeing with me, but I'm like, no. Like, flashlights are hard to get. Just take your flashlight, you goober. That's also a weird thing. People always say, like, you're so sweaty and not fun. And I'll do stuff like this. It's just like, I don't know. Anyways. But yeah, my main Spirit tips would probably be what I just said, where know that your phase could be used for more than just direct tracking. Use it to come out of phase early. Use it to come out of phase early to trick the survivor and use your lunge. Use it for mobility. Use it to beat survivors to resources like windows and pallets. That's probably the biggest thing that I can say as a takeaway. In terms of like Yamaoka maps and map knowledge in general, look for the ways that the survivors actually interact with the map itself. Like for this example of Yamaoka, there's a lot of bushes, there's a lot of grass, there's bamboo that the survivors physically part and interact with as they go through the map. And you can physically see that on your screen, and that'll help you when it comes to tracking people in phasing. I think a good final thing would be what I showed you guys at the beginning, which would be to hit someone first if you have the opportunity. Hit somebody first if you have the opportunity, because if they don't have Iron Will, that means they're incredibly loud, which makes them easier to track while you're in your phase, while you're actually in your phase. So if they don't have Iron Will, that makes them easier to track, because they go from just kind of like breathing subtly to suddenly groaning and grunting and being very, very loud. Also, the standstill tech is still kind of in the game. A lot of people don't know that the standstill tech has been, you know, essentially nerfed out of the game, because you hear her locational phasing now. You hear you literally hear the phase and directional audio where she's going. But some people don't know that. And if people do know that, phase for a very short period of time, and they will think that you're phasing on top of them, and that will usually cause them to move. So I think those are like the big four things that I would say will help you improve at Spirit, things you should do as Spirit to try and improve your results and improve your games. I think that goes a long way, and practicing that will probably make you a better Spirit for sure. Also, that Hattie was going for her Adept, so I'm very happy that I gave her hatch, because that means she got her achievement. So, which is it's the good ending. We got the good ending, chat. But yeah, I feel like those 4 things are a very, very good summary of what you should be doing, especially when you're early and you're learning Spirit. And I'll say this is the takeaway, the go home, the final thing I'll say. Like I said this at the beginning, phasing is the thing that makes Spirit. You're a 110 killer that has passive phasing, which kind of helps, but really you're just a 110 killer with a sword that just kind of I smack them, and without the phase you're kind of nothing. You're a nothing character, so you really need to master the phase. So if you're trying to learn this character right now, use the add-ons that I suggested to you and just phase as much as possible. Phase to before they're injured, phase after they're injured, phase all the time, because you want to be able to master that, because that's where the true core strength of this character is. Still probably the 3rd strongest character in the game, right below Blight and Nurse, even after her nerf, and that all that strength is inside the phase. So practice your phase, even if you lose the match, even if you throw the match, practice your phase. You gotta get good at tracking survivors and doing the different uses and utilities of the phasing power, like I mentioned earlier, to try and really get the most out of this character. If you don't master phase, you will always have a bad time with Spirit. So spend that time, practice your phase, try to use phase as much as possible in your chases, and you will thank yourself down the line, because that is long-term investment in your skill with this character. So yeah, I think that's it. That's already a pretty long video. So I appreciate you guys so much. Hopefully this helps you, Money. Hopefully this gives you some good tips. If you guys have other stuff that you would like to see me cover on the narrated DBD matches, just mention those down in the comments below. We already have another suggestion. It's going to be like Pinhead or something. I would have to reread the comment more exactly. I think we're doing a Pinhead video next. But if you have something you want to see covered, whether that be a specific map, a specific perk setup, a specific character, do let me know, and I'll do my best to give you some tips on that in a narrated match. But other than that, I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. But if I do not, I will see you when I see you, friends. Goodbye.